From the outside and as a spectator sport, Jiu-Jitsu can sometimes look a little dull. Unless there is a lot of back and forth action, and of course, there's submissions on the cards. And it's something that we all want to see. A well thought out methodical attack towards an armbar finish, or achieving victory by the way of a flying triangle. Regardless of the finish, it will always be a crowd pleaser. However, not all submissions will be completed due to some solid defense or just sheer luck with a sprinkling of stubbornness. With that in mind, welcome back to the channel and to 2024, I might add. I hope you had a good Christmas. And in this video, we'll be looking at the top 5 submission escapes of all time. For this list, we're looking at those submissions that have seemed nigh on impossible to escape, but in some way, some shape or some form, the competitor has managed to wrangle his way out of it. An escape that would make Steve McQueen proud. So we won't be counting Jacare Souza versus Roger Gracie, because having your arm quite clearly broken isn't exactly classed as an escape. As always, this is just my personal opinion. If your list looks different or you think I've missed one, then leave it down in the comments below. And apologies in advance for my terrible pronunciation. Let us get on with the video, shall we? Number 5. Clay Mayfield, heel hook escape. The most recent entry on our list is from the London No-Gi Open in 2022. It was Clay Mayfield versus Jed Hugh, fighting for Open Class Gold. And Jed Hugh, who has a superb leg lock game, starts looking early for a leg entanglement. After a few minutes and escaping mount, Jed manages a saddle entry and gets a very deep bite above the knee of Clay. Noticing the danger and realizing he won't be able to hide the heel forever, Clay stands and pushes on the leg of Jed to try and clear the knee line, opts for the running man escape while still posting on the butt to try and clear the knee, and eventually, after a bit of scrambling, he manages the escape. Now, heel hooks come on like that, and considering how tight that entry looks and how adept Jed is at leg locks, it's a miracle that Clay escapes. He also escapes an armbar, by the way, that's set up from the back, and again, fair play. Due to his passing and getting to mount, Clay eventually wins the match via points, but with some close calls littered throughout. Number 4, Buchecha! Armbar escape. Sorry about that. An excellent display of jiu-jitsu at the World Championships back in 2012 from Buchecha and Rodolfo Vieira. Buchecha, the crowd favourite at the time, was facing Rodolfo Vieira during the quarterfinals of the absolute category. And though we're looking at Buchecha's escape, hats off to Rodolfo Vieira for managing to escape this knee bar attempt that looks uber tight from this angle. After a back and forth match involving some great sweeps and passes from both men, in the final minute after scoring a takedown, Buchecha leads by 1 point. After the action is reset, Rodolfo ends up snatching the arm and almost the victory from Buchecha after an attempted butterfly sweep turned armbar. And like most of the submission attempts on this list, it looks tight. Like, super tight. Buchecha stops the initial extension by gripping the lapel with his other hand, loses it, somehow doesn't tap, and eventually clears the leg that's on his head, turns round and settles into side control. I cannot imagine what it was like seeing this live, but listen to the crowd at the moment that he escapes, because I think quite clearly everyone thought this was done. What a match, and what an escape. Hi guys and gals, before we continue with the list, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos, and feel free to check out some of my other videos, like where I do breakdowns of some jiu-jitsu matches, like this Bernardo Faria one, where he does a great... Actually, you know what, I'm not even going to spoil it for you, just go watch the video, alright? It's good breakdown. Anyways, back to this one. Number 3, Cyborg Abreu. Loads of, like, chokes. Like, a lot. First off, Cyborg with hair? What? It does not look right. Just doesn't. I prefer him shaved. Shave him, please. We're back in 2009 for the Black Belt finals of Grappler's Quest against Bill the Grill Cooper and Cyborg Abreu. From the offset, this match is all go, with plenty of invasions from Bill and a plethora of submission attempts. After a failed pass and a quick scramble, Bill ends up on the back with a cross collar grip on Cyborg. And this is where the submission attempts start. He attempts a bow and arrow, a clock choke, a bow and arrow, another bow and arrow. There are a few things that stop any of the submissions coming on. Number one, Cyborg is actually controlling his own lapel, pulling it down to take the pressure off the neck and the choke. Number two, he's always trying to clear the hooks, and at one point when he does, that's when Bill transitions to the clock choke. Number three, the final escape is he's controlling the top leg or the top hook whilst trying to clear the bottom one, and eventually when he does do this, he turns back into Bill and they manage to stand and get to their feet. And when the action pauses briefly, you can see Bill takes in a very frustrated sigh. Cyborg would narrowly win the match via an advantage, and also credit where credit is due for Bill for escaping this armbar attempt. Honestly, just go watch this match. It's a proper back and forth, and it reminds me of like Gary Tôzen. Speaking of, number two, Gary Tôzen, armbar escape. The walking highlight reel, Gary Tôzen. If you saw him down the street, he would just be on repeat and doing, you know, something crazy probably. Look at any of his matches and I guarantee that the exchanges and the pace will be non-stop. And though he narrowly lost this match in the final minute, the Jiu-Jitsu gods would smite me down if it wasn't on this list. If you haven't seen Stuart Cooper's video on this match where it's an interview with Kron talking about it, please do, because it's awesome. It's really well edited and shot, but it's awesome to hear Kron's thoughts on it as well, like throughout the match. If you aren't aware, Kron Gracie, Rickson Gracie's son, was a dominant force in Jiu-Jitsu, and Gary Tôzen at this point was relatively unknown. Kron starts the match out strong and ends up in mount, where Gary starts just giving him his arm to attack, and Kron thought,
yeah, I'm gonna go for his arm.
A lot is happening here, by the way, but if we slow down the video, Gary seems to be rotating his wrist quite a lot to stop the pressure on the elbow. And the reason that Gary ends up escaping, it's not because he's trying one escape, he's actually trying to put a bunch of them together. As Kron falls back, Gary gets an arm on the inside, and he's always trying to turn his wrist to stop the pressure going on the elbow. And due to the configuration of Kron's legs, that allows him to get up and start stacking. Even though the stack doesn't work and he ends up rolling back round, it's Gary's relentless pursuit and non-stop movement that allows him to eventually end up on top. Again, Kron does end up winning this match with just under a minute left on the clock, but it's seen as one of the best ADCC matches due to Gary's relentless pursuit of Kron and this epic display of escaping the armbar submission. And number one, Gordon Ryan, the armbar escape. Come on, you knew it had to be this one. It has to be, right? Though Gordon would suffer a defeat via points at the hands of Vinny Magalhães the following year, no one has ever come this close to submitting the king since his 2016 bout with Felipe Pena. It was the Eddie Bravo Invitational 14, where the only way to win is via submission. After a full match and no submission, a young Craig and Gordon head into overtime, where each man starts on the other's back to either, you guessed it, submit them or have the longest control time on the back. Both competitors escape the back in the first round of overtime, so we go into the second, and it's Craig's turn on the back. After a short grip fighting exchange, he ends up throwing the leg over, which Gordon does try to defend with the arm, but it doesn't work. Like the Doomslayer, Craig starts looking to rip and tear the arm off Gordon, starts attacking it immediately. Gordon just starts throwing in the hitchhiker escape straight away. As soon as he loses his arm, you can see he's trying to extend his shoulder in and turn the palm down to do the hitchhiker. Though Craig does an excellent job of keeping the arm and repositioning his legs whenever he starts losing that sort of armbar position, a persistent Gordon finally gets his arm free via the hitchhiker, and you can tell from everyone's expression, especially Craig's by the way, that they thought the match was over. If you want a greater explanation of how Gordon escaped the armbar, Keenan Cornelius does a great in-depth video on it, and I've left it down in the description below. Gordon would eventually go on to win this match via rear naked choke in his next round of overtime. The escape though is a great display of perseverance, determination and just some sheer stubbornness from Gordon. It's possibly one of the greatest armbar escapes that we've seen, especially now when you look back and look at the legacy that Gordon Ryan has created and realizing that this could have been a huge mark on it. And that's our list. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave it a like. If your submission escape list looks a little bit different to mine, then leave it down in the comments below and any questions that you may have. And as always, if you like this video and you want to see more of them, consider subscribing to the channel and ringing the bell to stay notified. Either way, you've all been great. Have yourself a wonderful day and I will catch you all next time. Cheers!